Okay. Welcome everybody to Parshat Eikev 5784. Last week, unfortunately, due to some scheduling problems, we were not able to have a class on Beit Hanan. And although we're having similar scheduling problems this week, I thought it would behoove us to have something of a class. Maybe not an entire class, maybe not an entire hour, but some Torah we should learn. We should definitely learn the Parsha every single week. Either way we do, hopefully on our own, we learn Shnayim Mikra Be'echad Targum. But aside from that, we should also try to gain some new insights into the Parsha from the sages of old and the sages of yesteryear at whenever we have the opportunity. So let's start with Parshat Eikev. It is basically the end of the first part of Moshe's last speech. We've spoken before about how Moshe, in the last days of his life, gave a major speech. This is the entire content of Sefer Devarim, is Moshe's final speech. And in the beginning of the speech, the first, it's a third almost really of the Sefer, the first three parshot, as we can see. Moshe is mainly talking about what the Jewish people need to do in theory. In other words, the mitzvot themselves are important and they will gain us great reward. That's what most of this parsha is about, in fact. But the actual technical how-to of the mitzvah, the do-it-yourself part of Torah, that's saved for next week's parsha. I said a bracha before. Part of the beginning of the parsha is some of the important lessons we have regarding food and not overindulging and understanding that everything comes from Hashem and thanking Hashem for it. And the whole concept of making brachot comes from this week's parsha. The words ve'achalta v'savata uveirachta, that you shall eat and be satisfied and bless. That phrase that we say also in Birkat HaMazon is from this parsha, from actually the first Aliyah, in fact. So let's, without any further ado, let's go right into the source sheet that's been sent out via email earlier and see what we can see. So already looking at the source sheet, I can see we've skipped all of the first and second Aliyah, and we start in chapter 10, which is the fourth Aliyah. So we're going to be very heavily at the end of the parsha in this in today's class. So the beginning of chapter 10 begins with these 5 verses. It says, "Ba'etahi," at that time, right? Amar Hashem Eli. This is after the sin of the golden calf. Again, Moshe is just reviewing this history. So he says that Hashem said to me at that time, make 2 new tablets like the first ones. Va'alei Eli hahara, go up to the mountain. Ve'asita lecha aron eitz, and then you're going to make an aron, a cabinet, the ark of wood of eitz. Ve'echtov al haluchot et hadvarim asher hayu al haluchot harishonim asher shibarta, and you're going to write on the second luchot, on the second tablets, the same words that you had on the first ones that you destroyed. So much again, Hashem speaking to Moshe. V'samta ba'aron, and you're going to lay them into the aron, into this ark, into this cabinet. V'as aron atzei shitim, v'avsol shnei luchot avanim karishonim, v'al hahara u'shnei haluchot biadi. And then you're going to, and then he made, he's speaking first person, Moshe again speaking, I made from shittim wood, from cedar wood, I made these 2 tablets, just like the first one. So again, this is wood now. Sorry. So he made the ark, this cabinet, out of wood, and v'efsol shnei luchot avanim karishonim, and I put I made these tablets of stone, like the first ones, and I put them and I came down from the mountain with these two tablets in my hands. I wrote the writing just as the writing was on the first one. So Moshe is saying, I wrote down these luchot, I brought them up just like the first ones, the 10 commandments written on them, as Hashem said, on the mountain, enveloped by flames and fire, on the day that the Jewish people gathered around and received it from Hashem. The Even ve'ered min hahar ve'asim al haluchot ba'aron asher titi v'ayu sham kasher tzivani Hashem. The last verse here says, then he went down the mountain, and he put, again, he's speaking first person, and I put the tablets, these stone tablets, into this wooden cabinet, into the ark that he made, and there they remained as Hashem had commanded him. Now, on this idea that they remained there, we have to wonder, what's the purpose of having luchot, especially broken ones, in a cabinet where they're going to stay forever? I mean, are we hoarding them? Do we need to declutter? What's happening? Why do we need to hold on to broken luchot, especially in a situation where it doesn't seem like anybody else is going to benefit in any way from them? So on this, there's a major, long, and important commentary from the Rabbeinu Bachai, and he writes there basically the entire history of these luchot and everything that happened to them and where they were kept, etc. He's got some interesting, of course, historical parts about what happened regarding the king Yoshiyahu. That there's basically a machloket. He goes with one side of the machloket from the Gemara, that basically the king Yoshiyahu, when the Babylonians were attacking Yerushalayim, that he hid the ark, right? This is long before Indiana Jones tries to find it, right? Right. And that's so the question is, why did he deals with the issue, the question of why he hid them to begin with. So on the one hand, let me try to find yeah, there you go. Lefisha haya Yeshayahu Yodea Shahabayit Ati, the future Beit Hamikdash Licharev Al Yedei Nebuchadnezzar. It would be that the Nebuchadnezzar would destroy it. And I Vim Shebiyamav Nevuim Tzivachin Cain. And the prophets of the time were prophesying that Nebuchadnezzar would destroy the temple. Vaya Davar Barur Atzlo Shekol Hakelim Yiglu. He was afraid that all of the kalim, all of the vessels, would be taken away to Babylonia. He didn't want that to happen. So he hid it because he wanted, for the honor of the Aron, to hide it, so it wouldn't be taken away with all of the other parts of the Beit Hamikdash. He gives a second reason why Yeshayahu would have done this. He saw in the existence of the Aron a sign of of the leadership of the Jewish people. The staves, the sticks with which to carry the Aron were lengthened in the times of Shlomo. They became literally shorter in his day, which indicated to him that there's some sort of measure that could be seen in the Aron that related to how great the leadership was of the time. And he saw that the staves got shorter, the sticks literally shortened. So that indicated to him that Hashem was not happy with his leadership. Right? And they became the same size as they were in the time of Moshe. Kashayu Yisrael nichnesin b'migdash hayu roin leparochet v'shnei badim ha'aron hayu reshehem nirin b'chus leparochet kishnei dade isha. They kind of stuck out of the parochet of they kind of pushed out from the parochet from the inside. Shenirim mitachad begedia. Ve'al shnei badin ve'al shnei badin elu hiske Shlomo alav shalom. This is what so Shlomo wrote about these staves regarding again their length and everything that it meant. Before in the days of Yeshayahu, b'mei Yeshayahu, yichazru klape panim hayu Yisrael nichnesin v'lo hayu roin otan yosim avotlin min haparochet kaminhag, and they were no longer really sticking out anymore. Lefi shechazru leota mida shayu b'mei Moshe. They went back to the way they were when Moshe had them built in the time of Bitzalel. And it was almost like the Aron itself was a kind of a harbinger. It was kind of pointing out what the future would be, that it would need to be gone. So whatever reason, he had basically two reasons. One is for the honor of the Aron itself. He didn't want it to be taken captive with the other vessels and schlepped away to Bavel. And on the other hand, another thing he wanted was he had a premonition, let's call it. I don't want to go so far as to say it's prophecy. It doesn't say that he was necessarily a prophet, but that he sort of saw that the Beit Hamikdash, it was going to be time for it to go, and so he kind of initiated that process by hiding away the Aron. So there's some interesting historical other pieces here in the Rebbeinu Bachai, and I strongly recommend you look at it. There's we have it here in English as well from Sefaria. Again, I can't vouch for the English translation, but let's try to get as much as you can from it. Again, that's a way to learn the parsha and to learn deeper insights, historical insights in this case, into what happened to the Jewish people. Okay, let's skip along just a few verses down to Chamishi, the beginning of the 5th Aliyah. And very important phrase here, according to some, sort of like the central tenet of Judaism could perhaps be taken from this verse alone. Easily. I mean, the tenets of Judaism can be taken from any verse in the Torah. Yom Hashem el Moshe Lemor. Hashem spoke to Moses saying is something that you could learn quite a bit about humanity, the fact that humanity can be worthy if they work on themselves the way Moshe did, to have Hashem speaking directly to us, right? So there are lessons to be learned in every letter of the Torah, but sometimes the tenets of Judaism are more clearly spelled out in some verses rather than in others. In this verse, chapter 10, verse 12, it says, "V'ata Yisrael ma Hashem Elokecha shoach mi'imach." What is it that Hashem wants from you? Ki im liyira et Hashem Elokecha, that you should just fear Hashem, your God. That's not it. We're not done yet. Lalechet b'kol derachav, to walk in all of his ways. Ulehava uto, and to love him. Uleavod et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha, and to love Hashem, to serve Hashem with all of your heart and with all of your soul. So it starts out by saying, like, what Hashem only wants a few things from me. It's not much. Just that you fear him, walk in all of his ways, whatever that means, do everything the way God would do it. What would God do? Right? And then you do that, and that you love him. And that's not even it. Also, you should serve him. Not just serve him, but with all of your heart and all of your work, all of your soul. Like, give up basically your entire life for godliness. That's all? Easy. Right? So that's all Hashem wants from you, just like everything, your entire life. And it's definitely a verse worth thinking about and asking the question. And we're allowed to ask the question, Baruch Hashem, and we have great scholars of the past who've done that. Give me one moment. Give me one moment. Told you this. Scheduling problems today. All right. Good. All right. So the Kedushat Levi, right? The Levi Yitzhak of Berdichev writes on this verse, Haklal, Ha'adam tzarich liyot anav mikol derachav v'chol ma'asav v'shama ta'omar b'avdut Hashem gam kein yeh anav. So there's a principle at work here, and that is that a person should always be humble. What does it mean? I'm going to give up my life. I'm going to give up this. I'm going to give up. I'm going to serve Hashem with all of my heart. Means that I'm recognizing that there's someone, in this case Hashem, above me, and I will serve him. I will do what he wants. That's a level of, let's call it humility, obviously. Right? I'm not a narcissist. I don't think everything revolves around me. I don't. I'm not going to not everything has to be exactly as I would like it. Right? Shamatoma Abdul Hashem Gam Kenya Anav. So serving Hashem is part of humility. Chas v'shalom lomar kain adarab adam tzarich lomar maaseh sha'ani oseh mitzvot Hashem chashuv etzel habori d'barach v'shem d'barach kiviyachol yeshlo tanog min hamitzvot sheli sha'ani oseh. And chas v'shalom, that somebody should say the opposite, that Hashem should like my mitzvot, right? I'm doing a good job. I deserve a pat on the back from Hashem because I do, I'm giving him pleasure. Ki im chas v'shalom ha'adam yiyeh anav mitzvot Hashem. It's this paradox of somebody who is humble because they feel so great about how well they do their mitzvot. V'yomar ma she'aseh chashuvim el Hashem zehu kefira. So to say that Hashem needs us or anything like that is a kind of kefira, is a kind of rejection of some of the principles of Judaism. Adarabba, b'mitzvah Hashem tzarich adam liyod lo lasher sha'ani maaseh sha'ani oseh ratzon Hashem heim chashuvim be'enei habora. What I do is important in Hashem's eyes. True. V'yeshlo tanug laHashem yitbarach maaseh sha'ani oseh et mitzvotav yitbarach. And there is a pleasure that Hashem receives when we do the mitzvot as we should. V'zu ramzu rabbeinu zal. This is what the rabbis hinted to in the Gemara in Sota. Shemita man the Eitz Bey Shemitah man delete bay. Let's just skip this for a moment. Ki ulam tanug hu mida sheminot kidu. So the one second. This is what happens when you don't plan a class very carefully. Shabur is barach yesh lo tanug misut b'nei Yisrael adam tzarich liyot lo tanug masha osa nachat ruach v'borid barach gam kein hu medabek atzmu b'mida shamninit shminit shehu olam v'tanug zahu shmini shminit. What are we talking about? The eighth here. Right. Okay, give me 1 second. Right. Right. Okay. So essentially the important part here is for us to remember that we our humility is our service to Hashem, right? More than anything else. So the Yirat Hashem is the essential mitzvah that we need to do. Once we have that yira, once we have the recognition that we are below Hashem, that we owe Him so much for everything that He's done for us, that at that point we are we'll be able to follow through in the other ways mentioned in the verse. Then we skip a little bit further on, and again Hashem is going to be described here by Moshe. Ki Hashem Elokehem hu Elokei Elokim. Hashem is the God of the gods, whatever that means. We'll talk about that. That was an interesting choice by Safari there to skip this part. Wait 1 second. 10:17. There we go. He is the master of masters. He is the great, powerful, awesome God. Who doesn't show favor and does not take any kinds of bribes. So Hashem is just amazing and great, etc. Now we have an idea, by the way, that you're not supposed to praise Hashem in too many ways. There's an incident in the Gemara we have in the beginning of the Shemona Esrei where we say Hashem, Elokei Abraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov, Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanera, Kel Elyon, Konei Shemayim Va'aretz. So there's a story in the Gemara that one of the Tanaim overheard somebody praying and adding to that bracha other descriptions of Hashem, other great things. He's wise, he's compassionate, he's forgiving, he's generous. Just going on and on and on, every single positive adjective you can think of. And the Tana came up to him afterwards and said, "That's it and no more? You've described Hashem completely? You're done?" So there's no limit to how many great things we can say about Hashem. So what is in the verse, what is there, is the most that we can use. But all of these phrases need some sort of an explanation. So for that, we're going to look at the Seforno, who explains some of these ideas. So, for example, Adonai Ha'adanim, that Hashem is the master of masters, right? So there's an idea mentioned in the Rambam that the stars and the constellations, the planets, that they're not completely sentient beings, but they have some sort of power that is somewhat independent. In other words, Hashem put them there. Hashem gave them certain powers, and that's why the Rambam wouldn't say this, but that's why there's such a concept as astrology, and for whatever it's worth, or for whatever it was worth, when when it was written about by greater scholars, it's only worth that because certain powers were granted to these things. And by the way, we know this even scientifically. We know, for example, that the waves in the ocean are affected by the stages of the moon. Right? Obviously, the moon isn't independent, doesn't set its own stages, but certain powers are, we had sort of, for shorthand, basically attribute to the moon, but we know they all come from Hashem, is the point. So that's this first idea of Adonai Hadonim. Manhig hamanhigim vehem hagalgalim v'aniyehem shenaheget kulam mekavanot lahasik tichelet kavanatot anit malachot partiot miyuchus al harishiot. So he says this very beautifully, that that these galgalim, these spheres, right? The balls in the sky, the circles in the sky, right? So all of them, all the things that they can do, and the purposes that they can cause to occur, those are all under Hashem's control, right? Hakel Hagadol. So this is she'ein nimtza shaveh lo. There's nothing equal to him. Again, from the Rambam. The Madrigat min hatziyuto. So there's nothing that's like him in any way in terms of existence. Everything else was created. Hashem was not created. Hashem was always there, right? Hagibur, the fact that he is mighty, right? That is Mekayem Kol Hamitziyut Ke'amru Ve'ata Mechayeh Et Kulam. Hashem gives life to everything. Everything is constantly powered, right? Like battery powered by Hashem. That's what makes him great. V'Nora, he's awesome. Masig L'Shalom L'Anosh L'Otan Haruy L'Iruy L'Panav. So he is his greatness, his awesomeness is that he is able to decide what deserves punishment, what deserves reward. See, we wouldn't be able to do that. I've told people many times. A lot of people feel that especially if they've made a mistake in life, they feel that Hashem is not going to grant them any favor, and they're thinking very limitedly about Hashem. Hashem is not like us. We're human. We have hopefully are able to be forgiving, but sometimes it's very hard to forgive somebody for a wrong that's been done. But Hashem is infinitely kind and infinitely generous, and He knows every single piece of the puzzle. We don't know. Somebody. Take for example, you're driving, right, and somebody cuts you off in traffic, and keeps going. So you might be upset with that person. You'll never have a conversation with that person again, likely, right? But you might be upset and say, "Why? What a chutzpah! This person feels entitled, whatever." So you don't know, as Hashem does, what's going on in that person's life. Maybe they're having a medical emergency. Maybe their foot got stuck on the pedal. Who knows? All of these little details could change the entire story. And And that's the kind of thing that only Hashem has the ability to really judge properly. And that's what makes him so nora, so amazing and awesome. So continues Asher lo yisapanim. He doesn't favor anybody. This also includes right this Leven Parid Shibnei of Tzaddik. This even for a child who might not be so so in line with what they should be doing, but they're the son of a great person. So even that person, Afal Pi Shahu Marich Af B'Schuto Shel Av, even though he has some sort of merit that from his father, from his righteous father, if he or she is not righteous, then they're going to get whatever they deserve. Hashem doesn't show favor. It's not a free pass just because your father or your mother was such a great person. Lo yikach shochad, and he does not take bribes. What is that talking about? Lo yasir klal me'onesh ha'aver. He doesn't in any way take away from the punishment of a sin. B'shvil skut mitzvah, even the skut of a mitzvah. He knows what the merit of a mitzvah is. No, we don't. We think a mitzvah is 2 points in heaven. Where do we get these ideas from? We have no idea what a mitzvah is worth. And we know, for example, the same mitzvah done by two different people can receive untold, infinite difference of reward depending on how difficult that mitzvah was or what the intent of the actor was, etc. It could be a completely different story. V'chol zeh yoreh shelo tivtacho im tachtau lahanetzel b'shum zchut min ha'onish klal zulati b'tshuva shlema. And more importantly, more to the point, that this we can't rely on anything to save us really from a punishment. And punishment will always occur if we deserve it, except for klal, with the exception of tshuva shlema, real complete, perfect teshuva that's meaningful, and where we really regret what we've done and want to improve our connection to Hashem. Again, a good sforno to look over, some very important concepts there for you to preview. Now we're going to conclude here shortly. Again, we're really focusing on the second half of the parsha today. So we're going to look at a few verses, 2 verses in the second paragraph of the Shema, which is in this week's parsha. That's in the 6th aliyah. It says, and it's going to happen that if you listen to my mitzvot, that I command you today, to love Hashem your God, and you serve Him with all your heart and all your soul, as we've said before. Then I will give you rain in its proper time. Yorel, malkosh, different kinds of rain, early rain, late rain. And you'll be able to, this is the important part that we're going to focus on, you will gather in your grain and your wine and your oil. Sounds like a good thing, right? You're going to do what you need to do. You're going to be gathering in your grain. Isn't that great? Is that a terrific thing? So that's why it's going to get a little strange when you see this Gemara from the Gemara in Brachot 35b. This phrase, that you'll be gathering your grain. Ma Talmud Lomar, what does that teach you? The Tisha Nemar, Lo Yamush Sefer Torah Hazeh Mepicha. That you should not forget the Torah from your mouth. Yachol Devarim Tavan. It could be maybe it's You might have thought that just take it at face value the way it's written. The Talmud Lomar, that's why it says Asafta Diganecha Hanheg Bahem Minhag Derech Eretz. Do what you're supposed to do in terms of making money. Right? You have to have a job. Divi Rabbi Shmuel is basically saying not to have a kollel, to have people learn Torah daily. They also work daily. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Shimon Bar Yochai himself, right? The author of the Zohar. It says Efshar Adam Choresh Bishat Charisha. It could say the person should plow during the time of plowing. Zroa Bishat Zriya, and he's going to seed at the time of seeding. Kotzer Bishat Ktsira, and he's going to cut down. He's going to harvest at the time of harvesting. V'dash Bishat Disha. V'zora Bishat Haruach. Torah Ma'ateh. If all of his time is going to be working, there's not going to be any time for him to learn Torah. What's going to happen to my Torah, says Hashem? Ela bisman she Yisrael osir nizon shel makom. When the Jewish people do what they're supposed to do, malachta naset al yedei acherim. Their work can be done through others. You don't have to do your work. Somebody else can do your work for you. And that'll free you up to learn Torah, says Rishim Bar Yochai. Shnei as it says in the pasuk, v'amdu zorim rau tzonchem v'gom. It says in the verse where's this verse? In Yeshayahu, chapter 61, that others will come and do your work for you. When the Jewish people are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, when they're not following halacha properly, that's malachtan naset al yedei atzman. That's when you have to do the work yourself. As it says, Shneamar ve'asafta diganecha, that you'll be gathering in your grains. Wow. It sounds like when you're gathering in your grains is not a blessing, but a curse. That's when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's when this is going to happen, which is very strange because it seems like we said when you listen, that's when you'll be able to gather in your grains. So it's when you're doing what you're supposed to do, or when we're not doing what we're supposed to do. Does the Gemara know about this verse? Obviously. So the authors of the Tosfot in their commentary on the Chumash called Dat Zakenim and Bali Tosfot bring up this issue, and they say in the concept of Yasafta Diganecha, that you'll be gathering in your grain. Kolomar v'achar kach lo yardu geshamim lefishu zman hasifa. Katzir geshamim be'et hakatzir siman klala. So once you bring in your grain, you're not going to need any more rain during the rest of the season because you brought in your grain. And when rain comes during the harvest season, it's considered a kalala, considered a curse. Shenemar halo ktsir echitim hayom, etc. B'misachta brachot parach t'i v'asafta, where it says in the Gemara in Brachot that this idea of gathering in your grains is when we don't listen to Hashem. The mashma atab atzmecha. That's about you yourself. Amdu zarim rau tzonechem is other people do your work for you. B'shnei mishani kan, and this is different. Bizman sheYisrael osin ritzono shel makom. That's when they do the work of Hashem. Kan b'she'ein osin ritzono shel makom mekasha sharei kai v'ahave im shamoa v'tzarach iyun. So sounds like now they have to do their own work because they're not listening to Hashem, and that's what's going to happen when they listen to Hashem. Listening to Hashem, not listening to Hashem. What's so? How are we to understand this? And for this, we're going to look at the of Schwab's Mayan Beit HaShoeva, where he brings up this Gemara in Brachot. He quotes this question from Adat Zakenim. He mentions that they didn't really answer the question, right? Shrich and Biur, it requires some explanation. And he says, Venira, this is his explanation. Tebavadai malas habechira higdola ad me'od. What does it mean to be doing Hashem's will or not doing Hashem's will? It's a choice we're making. You choose whether to listen to Hashem or not. And that is the greatest thing that makes us human. Who ateret tiferet shel Adam. That is the greatness of man, is that we have the ability to make choices. We don't know al kol habriot, as opposed to any other creature, even the great celestial spheres we talked about before, that quote unquote seem to control things. Even they don't have a choice, right? The moon isn't going to decide, oh, I don't really feel like being a full moon today. It's going to be a full moon whenever Hashem says it should be. Right? We're the only piece of the puzzle that doesn't have to fit in exactly as we should. We can choose to not. Aval hamala hagvoa miyoter hi kishahadam bebechirato ha'avshit bocher levatel al koach bechirato. The greatest piece of our freedom of choice is when we can decide to give up our freedom of choice and be mevatel and say, Hashem, you know better. I'll do what you say. L'kabel al atzma ol malchut shamayim. That happens when, as we've been saying throughout this class, when we take on the yoke of Hashem, when we do what Hashem wants, that's when we're listening to Hashem. Achahu margish et atzmo mukhrach le'avodat Hashem. Kein amru rizal b'avodah zarah. It says like that in the Gemara of avodah zarah, etc. Second, let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. Right. Right. Okay, so here in this paragraph here on the left side, v'chein ma me'od am kudivrei Chazal shehargishu shehaparshat v'haya im shemoa tishmu el mitzvotai shehaparsha mitchilat be'im. It starts with if. What does that mean? Perish she'ein ata muchrach v'yesh lecha habchira chavshi. You're not forced. Nobody's forcing you to listen to Hashem. You have a free choice to listen to him or not. Lishmo or shelo lishmo, to listen to him or not listen to. L'chein yesh kan chisaron b'shleimut asiyad ritzono shel makom. And by definition, there's now a lack in how much you listen to Hashem. Because if you really, really feared Hashem and had an inkling of how great he is and how much he does and how he knows everything, all of it. If you had an inkling of that, you wouldn't even consider the option of not listening to Hashem. You would have given up. You would have been mevatel a long time ago. Whatever you say, I'm doing. Jump off the bridge. How far? How fast? What time? What time you want me there? But we're not like that. We have to think about it and reason. Did I understand that correctly? We'll come up with excuses why not to do something. By the way, I'm not saying anybody should jump off any bridge. Let's put that out there. But again, whatever hoop Hashem wants us to jump through, it should not even be a choice. It shouldn't even occur to us that there's an option. We should have already given that up a long time ago. By not giving that up, we're basically admitting that there's doubt in the system. And by doing that, by including even a bit of doubt in our relationship to Hashem, what we're basically saying is we're not completely doing what Hashem wants. And when we're not doing what Hashem wants, that's when we'll have to gather our grain. That's when we'll have to work. That's when the situation is that others won't come and farm for us, so we can focus our lives on spirituality and Torah. Whoever is able, whoever gives up and says, you know what, it's all from Hashem. Hashem will do what he needs to do. I'll do everything he says, and I will not give. I will not even consider the possibility of not listening to Hashem. At that point, you won't have to work anymore, because somebody else will come and do it, and you'll be able to free up all of your time to gain spirituality, to learn Torah, and to become closer to Hashem. That's the idea, and that's how that works. That when we're listening to Hashem, and we still have to work, we're not doing Hashem's will. Why are we working? It's because we still think that there's a little bit of free choice in our hands of what we can do or not. We didn't give up our free choice entirely, as we really should, once we realize how great Hashem is, how much He loves us, and how much He has done for us. Again, thank you for listening. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I hope to see all of you on Shabbat. Take care.